Welcome to partialarc.com. Don't do that.
You find yourself in a tavern.
Yo, we should have checked for traps.
I knew he forgot something.
I think I can reason with him.
You killed his father.
Can I have sex with it?
You could certainly try.
I'm gonna touch a sword.
Don't touch the sword!
The child is evil, right?
Obviously.
I could cast Fireball.
Always cast Fireball.
All right, roll for it. Welcome to Friday Night Quests. I'm your host and DM, Jay Jones. We're back for our special bonus episode for Season 6. First, I'll sit down with our cast, including special guest Todd G. Levin, and we'll discuss our various family holiday traditions. Then Mike Christensen will interview myself and Jeremy Fox about the design and creation of this adventure. But without further ado, let's dive in. Guys, you did it! You killed a doppelganger incursion!
Yay!
And also didn't kill a black dragon. Good job.
We befriended one.
You did. You befriended a nice
I like
black
that.
dragon,
I
everybody.
like that.
Okay, so I have a question for you guys. So now the adventure's over. This was obviously a very holiday-themed adventure, Bahamutmas.
Yep.
Are there any weird, fun holiday traditions that you guys have in your own families that you think are, interesting and fun and kind of your favorite?
In our IRL?
In IRL, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
What's your favorite holiday tradition that you have?
So, at my house, we have these freaking porcelain houses that you could buy at, I forget where you can buy them, but it's basically Dickens Village, built out of these really expensive porcelain houses with lights inside of them. Mm-hmm. And every Christmas, my dad used to set it up until I was about the age of 14. And this box where all of them would come in, this is 18 pieces of these houses with little figurines. And it took up an entire table that we dedicated to Dickens Village. And it had fake snow and an ice rink. And it just was a whole ordeal. But when I got to a certain age, my dad's like, you're going to set up Dickens Village now. And now I'm pushing 30. I'm still
setting up Dickens Village?
I'm so sick of it. It's actually this. It was this great memory that's now turned into this thing that I dread. And my dad's like, "You got the Dickens Village box down." I'm like, no, I don't want
Dickens Village.
No.
Sounds like a lovely memory.
Yeah, it's fun and lovely.
We have a similar thing. We have a few of those little houses that we set up.
Yeah.
But we also have a little bay window, but we don't have any plants in it or anything. Mm-hmm. We have these bears, this family of bears.
Family of bears?
Yeah, these stuffed bears that are
Coca-Cola bears?
No, action figure sized almost. And they're basically Berenstain bears because they're anthropomorphic and they dress and they have a little Christmas setup for them. And so you set them up for Christmas and stuff. But we also had this tradition where every major holiday, we would bring in new things for them.
Yeah.
So they would have an Easter setup and a little 4th of July that have little flags and things like that. And we would have different little setups for the different holidays around the year. And that was fun.
That's nice.
I like that.
I also once told my sister that Santa Claus was dead.
Oh,
that's good.
That's fun
It's
and lovely.
it's so much darker than not real.
That's
it is so much darker.
Because what happened was we don't have a big emphasis on Santa in our family. We give our gifts Christmas Eve, and then Christmas morning we look at the the stockings and Santa filled them.
Yeah.
But when I asked my mom straight up when I was 5, is Santa real? She didn't want to lie because then I don't really trust her when I grew up. And she's like, well, he was a real person. Saint Nicholas lived a very long time ago. But he's dead, right?
Oh, God.
Well, yes, he was very kind, and we honor his memory, and that's the important thing, is that we remember him, and we tell stories of Santa Claus, and we give each other gifts. You hear that, Beth? Santa's dead. She was upset.
And Beth, that was when Beth tried to commit suicide that first time.
No, that's super dark.
Super dark.
No, she believed. She still believed. She had a. She got.
She was like, I refuse to believe.
She had a box that all the preschoolers, all the kindergartners, whatever age she was, had a bell, a little sleigh bell that had actual snow inside the box.
Really?
And we're from California. The only place you get snow is the North Pole. So obviously, it had to be Santa's.
That makes sense.
Very definitely.
Aww.
Oh.
Unless Santa's like a lich.
He is, right?
Maybe.
Yeah.
A magical lich that sneaks into your house to steal your happiness.
Well, it's
when you sleep.
weird, but one Easter, my old bedroom used to face the garage door, like the door that led into the garage, and I could, look at the door. And one Easter, I woke up around like 3, and I looked at the clock,
and
I'm
a
like, it's
6-foot bunny was staring at
but
you.
the doorknob
That's just
jiggled.
Donnie Darko.
It jiggled. The doorknob jiggled,
Oh,
and I was like,
jeez.
oh, "It's the bunny!" And I just went and closed my eyes again.
Oh, how messed up would that be if you like let somebody in your house
And I
because you
told
thought
my
it was a
parents
bunny?
later, and they were like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, the bunny tried to get in last night, but like I didn't let him." But like,
Oh, no.
I
The
told
bunny
him
had
what happened.
tattoos.
And my mom was like, "Oh, okay, cool." But later in years, she was like, "Yeah, no, that was someone trying to get into the house."
When I was 25, she told me that
Yeah.
the bunny
She's
is
like,
not real.
"What?"
I wonder if it's just someone drunkenly just like trying the
Yeah,
house
'cause
and be
the-
like, oh, that's not my
the
house.
door to get into the garage was unlocked.
Ironically,
but
he had
the
a
door
basket
to
of
get into
eggs.
the house was.
Gotta leave this in everybody's houses.
for a very different reason.
Benevolent
Yeah.
B&E man.
The only one I can think of that I really like is that I learned it from Josh Allen. During the Allen family does this very particular thing on Thanksgiving where it's that you have to watch Jurassic Park. No matter what
yeah.
happens, you'll have to watch Jurassic
That's pretty
Park.
great.
So like, no matter what, you gotta
matter
watch
what
it.
happens.
So like, it's so fun to think of like, we're busy today, and it's like, sorry, we gotta watch Jurassic Park. Like,
That's
no
pretty
matter what.
amazing.
So even if you're like going somewhere, you have to take the DVD with you and make sure you have a DVD player.
Oh my god!
And it's playing in the background, but you gotta watch it. So I've seen Jurassic Park
Every year.
every year for like 8 years now.
It holds
That's awesome.
up.
Wow.
Yeah, it's still a good movie.
great.
We always try to make sure to fit in Die Hard somewhere during our Christmas season.
Die Hard's a pretty good Christmas story.
Yeah.
It's got all the right Christmas, trappings
Yeah.
and things.
Ours is the Muppet Christmas Carol.
That's a
very
great
nice.
one.
Todd, you got any?
Yeah, I guess we don't do too many holidays anymore because we kind of live in different places and stuff like that. But we still do Thanksgiving together. Most years we still do Thanksgiving. And, Thanksgiving is just a great holiday in general with all the food and everything. And there's traditions surrounding some of the food. Like, for example, my mom makes a baked brie, and we fell into this sort of thing where there's always like something on the top. And usually she just used to do like, not a design, but more of like just something on the top or whatever.
Sure.
Because there's like leftover
Garnishing, right?
Yeah, no, well, like leftover dough that you can make into some kind of shape.
Oh, cool.
And so I kind of fell into designing like what's gonna go on there. So either like a turkey or like lattice work or like this or that or whatever. And sometimes I put like a joke in there. I mean, I'm not gonna make like a dick because it's like it's Thanksgiving.
family
There's
event.
like
Yeah.
a lot of
Dicks
there's children around.
Dicks are strictly for July 4th.
But there's like different
Yep.
things that you do, and so that's fun. And then besides that, and like watching a Cowboys game with like the whole family.
cool.
We usually, whenever we get together, it's funny. We're all movie people. Whenever we do get together, the Levin family loves to watch The Birdcage.
Oh my god!
That's just our family movie.
Really?
Yeah, it's just a thing. I don't know where it started, but
that's like on your family crest is just the birdcage.
that's just what we like to watch. It's like whenever we're together in the same place, we will end up watching The Birdcage somehow.
That's
Cool.
pretty amazing.
Great.
Awesome. All right, guys.
man.
Well,
What
thank
about
you very
Jay? What about you?
Oh, me?
You get out of a lot of these questions.
I do get out of a lot of these questions.
You get so much out of them.
I get so much.
Yeah,
out
he
of
gets
them.
off on them.
I get myself. Around the holidays, around Christmas time, we still do cookies.
Yeah.
We still do cookies for Santa Claus.
On Easter,
And a
don't-
scary
I
man
like
still
that.
breaks in and eats them. No, no, we still do it, and it's really fun.
That's your dad.
And like my parents are still like, because I'll still go home and visit them over the holidays, and they're still very dedicated to eating those cookies, like they had been eaten the night before. So I think it's pretty fun, especially with my brother and myself. Like we still treat that morning as if we treated it like when we were kids.
Oh, you're
it's
saying
still pretty fun.
you put out cookies for Santa?
Yeah, cookies
Yeah.
for Santa. Yeah, and we obviously know what's up. Like
I think
know,
you just meant like we love to eat cookies.
we love to eat cookies the night before. No, we
Also a Christensen tradition, but not exclusive to holidays.
just leaving cookies out and or eating cookies.
Yeah.
Does anybody? Because I don't have this memory. Have you guys ever eaten the cookies?
We
I've
We never left out the cookies. I don't
No,
think.
we leave beer now.
So
beer for Santa.
Beer for Santa.
That's pretty cool.
It's a pretty good deal.
I wanted to kill Santa, so I don't know. Maybe I left out some
Yeah.
Home Alone traps or something.
drunken sleigh bell
Tax.
riding.
You are dead, Santa. Dead to me.
We do leave out a bunch of stuffed bunnies for Easter.
Oh.
Because every year the Easter Bunny would bring me and my sister.
To warn him off? You're like, this is what happened to the previous
Rabbit
bunnies.
traps.
He would bring a different stuffed animal for each of us every year, and sometimes it was lambs, because lambs are also very popular during Easter.
Yep.
And
Why?
because Lamb of God, I guess. I don't know. Like, that's why the sheep seem to be also common, I guess.
Death to the sheep.
And occasionally teddy bears, when I think maybe mom and dad just wanted to mix it up. But we would bring out all of our stuffed animals the night before Easter, and they would just sit on the couch waiting for the Easter Bunny. And this was actually a late tradition. This started later, like, we would be like 10 or 11. This is like late in believing in the Easter Bunny. But the next day, the bunnies would just be all over the house. Like, some are like sitting by the remote, like they were watching TV. Some were like reading books. As we get older, this tradition still continues.
Wow.
Sometimes they're like over by the wine.
That's pretty great.
That's cute.
Yeah.
That's cool. I like that.
That's a fun
I
one.
want to do
We could tell that my mom has the Easter Bunny has a lot of
the
fun with
Easter
that.
Bunny has a
Look,
lot
if there's
of
any
fun.
kids listening, we've debunked a lot tonight.
Okay,
Sorry,
I have
everyone.
one last thing. I have
Okay.
one thing, and I just remembered it. When I was really young, my dad did this thing that was like the coolest thing ever, and I want to do it for my kids someday, where he pretended, he woke me up in the middle of the night at like 3 a.m. on Christmas Eve night, and he was like, hey, I almost got Santa. I almost got him. He's like, come see. And he had placed all these presents, like they had fallen off of the bag towards the fireplace.
Oh, that's
And he was
pretty
like,
great.
look, he dropped all these. He's like, should we open them? And I was
That's awesome.
That's a pretty great trick.
Yeah,
that's pretty
great.
memorable. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, guys.
All right, guys.
All right.
Friday Night Quest.
Bye.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Happy
Yeah.
Bahamas.
Happy Bahamut. I think it's Bahamut.
B-Mass.
All right, guys, I'm sitting here with Jay Jones, our dungeon master, and Jeremy Fox, our Prince Horace Kemp.
Hello.
How are you doing, Jeremy?
He's here in the
good.
Aftermath section.
What?
I'm-
Things
What's
are
going
so
on?
weird.
I didn't want to be here. I found myself here. I was in a dark room. Light showed up. I'm here now.
We dumped enough buckets of water on him until he was like, you know what?
I was
I'm down.
waterboarded for like hours.
What do you want me to do? Talk on this mic for a few minutes? I think I can make that happen.
Well, you could have just asked immediately. I feel like that was the first thing you said. It's like, had you told me what we were doing, there was a much easier way to do this.
Yeah, I feel like somebody just wanted to waterboard me.
Yeah,
I
we-
don't feel
It was all of us.
Yeah, we did. Sorry.
Yeah. We took a vote and it was unanimous.
It was a splurge buy on Black Friday, and we were like, I gotta get used out of this waterboarding setup. What am I gonna do? And we were like, well, this is the only way.
But that's not what we're doing.
That's what we're here to talk
We're
about.
talking about season 6 and
We are.
the Genesis. And Jay, we should start with you because you were the one who started this off with a cliffhanger from season 5 and indicated we were going to the Kemp's family
For Bahamutmas.
for the holiday.
Which I believe is how you say it. We said it, I think, 15 different ways.
We said Bahamutmas.
Bahamas?
We said Bahatmas a lot. And we would sometimes refer to Bahamut as Bahatmas.
Yep.
It is not the easiest name
It's not.
to begin with.
But it's the correct one, especially, look, you're going to have some people around you in the holidays who are really big in Bahamutmas. I still think I got it wrong there.
I'm sure somebody's complaining that you're taking Bahamut out of Bahamutmas.
That's
You
true.
know what I mean? Like,
We made it
somebody's
too
like-
big about the treasures
Yeah.
to the horde, and
Somebody
it's really
should
about
have said,
Bahamut.
like, do you know what Bahamutmas is about?
We missed that whole NPC.
We
that
did.
That was the real side adventure.
Yeah.
You guys wanted to do the whole thing with the assassins and stuff.
It
but
was a very secular Bahamut.
Yeah.
Well, actually, no, it wasn't. We hung out with the paladin a lot.
yeah, it's true actually.
But you kind of decided we're doing a holiday episode.
I knew I wanted to do that for almost the beginning
Okay.
of like all of these adventures. I was like, well, they're gonna have a Christmas adventure, and it's gonna be at the Kemps. Like, I immediately decided, like, and I very much from the beginning was like, I also want it to be like a classic, like Christmas is ruined because like the family, and like the perfect example was Horace always talked about like his mom and always talked about his father and always talked about like there was just so much weight or gravity to like the Kemp. So I was like, oh, well, I'll just do the classic like mom and dad aren't together anymore. Like, will we get them back together for Christmas? And it's just like,
We're very
maybe.
cliche and hack here. At
we
Friday
are.
Night
We're very
Quest.
cliche and hack.
To be honest, though, I really didn't see Parent Trap coming.
You didn't see Parent Trap coming?
I didn't.
Oh, man. I knew right away. I was like, dragons gotta be Parent Trap.
I loved it. I actually was really happy in the end that we got our parents back.
Did you sense at all before when you were coming there that the parents were not going to be together?
No, I really didn't.
It's really funny because you, as soon as you got there, you wanted to talk to Mom.
Which was great because I was like, oh, this is going to be good.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always felt like Horace sees himself as a black sheep, even though he sees himself as self-important. You know, I mean, like he finds himself.
Really? I don't think that's ever come across in the podcast.
Maybe I should probably play that up a little more.
Yeah, probably a little bit more. You've been too humble.
As Horace.
As Horace.
And the funny thing is, I don't think the family like even notices him enough to really even consider him a black sheep.
That's
like,
a possibility.
I don't think they see him as like...
Well, Darnsin does, but that just bothers you to the nth degree.
But they don't think of him as a black sheep. They just sort of think of him as like, oh yeah, it's Horace. Oh,
the
he's
guy
going
who told
on
everyone to go forgive
He's
themselves.
pouting again.
Yeah, right.
That's true.
And I mean, there's so many Kemps that, I mean, it's like everybody's coming in and out. And also, Darnsin's just so sweet.
Yeah.
That, I mean, he keeps a record of what's going on with all the family. Because, I mean, he's the guy that, like, when Mom and Dad die, he's going to be the one putting together Bahamutmas.
Oh, yeah. He's going to be the one bringing out the feast. And, you know, he's going to be so humble and honorable. It's going to be just disgusting.
Yeah. And all the, it's like a real family. Like, if nobody does that, it doesn't happen.
Exactly.
You know, you need that one person that goes like, all right, everybody get together. Let's make sure everybody flies out to this one place.
Yeah.
And,
you're going to bake. You're going to set up the tree. You're going to do this. Yeah.
Yeah. And Darnsin's sweet like that.
Yeah.
I think Darnsin.
And kudos to Todd. He played along really well with the character.
Yeah,
and
we should say that we did things a little differently this time.
This season was very different because it was a lot more Horace focused. And it was a much more of a character story that I was like, I kind of want to do this. And it's very difficult to like bring in a special guest. And even though our guests are always great and they're quick and they adapt on their feet real fast, it's still a lot to ask to be like, hey, so you're going to be like this brother and this is like kind of like the deal. And
that's what we wanted to do is like not just have us have a new tag along friend going to Bahamutmas. Like we wanted like something with some stakes. And so we like in season 4, Horace goes on a tirade about his brother Darnsin or Darnish. The name changes a couple times.
Yeah, it does.
Because the canon isn't really written. It's very fluid, guys.
To be fair, that was a complete. I mean, the whole thing's improvised.
Everything we do is improvised. For those who don't know how D&D works, like we make up everything we do as we go along.
But so Jeremy off the cuff was just started naming people's names. That's like, where we got Jiggy-Hor, Jebstein, and Randy. So my 3 favorite. Kemp brothers.
My brothers.
Those all came from season 4.
Yeah, and then Darnish, who became Darnsin.
Yeah, and we kind of wanted to like. Well, he flips back and forth in that episode.
Yeah, that's.
But like we knew like, oh, Darnsin's like
it's like Russian, where it's like you can have pet names for people.
Exactly. Yeah. That's how
Darnish.
It's canon, guys.
It is now.
Update the wiki. Some also start a wiki.
Somebody start a wiki, please.
But we kind of like went to like that first. We were like, okay, we know we want this sort of the analog that Jay and I always used was Cactoid Jim from the Thrilling Adventure Hour, of just like the nicest, sweetest guy that the main character hates and everyone else loves.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, that's what we want to do. And we were like, so who should do that? And we just kind of like thought like, well, it'd be great to bring in Todd because Todd's really, really funny. And like, we knew that Jeremy and Todd were going to have like the best banter.
Yeah.
And as soon as we turned to Todd and we're like, and you see this character, and he opens up his mouth and that voice came out like, my word. And we're like, oh, great, sold.
There we go.
He got it.
Yeah, that was totally Darnsin. Yeah,
right from the jump. I was like, okay, this is going to be fun. And then, of course, the preceding scene, which was, I thought, one of the goofier ones in that first episode, was when you guys were in town.
The following scene,
and he threw money out, or like he gave like a little bit. No, he gave like a little bit of gold. Yeah. And then you decided to just throw just all your gold. You're like, I have 215 gold, and it is now in the streets.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it's... I feel like Horace Kemp is always like really self-conscious about his family and really and like really self-conscious about his standing, and he's so like his ego comes from a fragile place, you know what I mean? So like when Darnsin even shows that like iota of something that could challenge,
I'm gonna give it to the poor. I'm gonna give all my money to the poor.
I mean, like, you know, Horace is and honestly I think this is so like armchair psychology, but I think Horace
into it
is a child of divorce. You know what I mean? Like he is one of those guys that's like feels like super like okay, I got to take care of myself. Nobody's going to take care of me. I have to build my own kingdom. I have to make sure I can, trust myself.
Yeah. And
Darnsin is this idea of trusting family in a way that I think Horace looks at as you're crazy,
he's a rock of the Kemps.
You're right. He is
what they all hold on to pull them back to it.
Where Horace very much has a selfish relationship with the family because he wants validation more than anything else.
Yeah. He wants validation, and he also doesn't trust the family. I think he this idea of his own kingdom comes from the idea of when you have a kind of a shitty family, you go outside your family to find your family. You find friends, or you find your wife or your girlfriend, or people, or a community of people that you build. And it becomes
because you build a family because you didn't have that structure there before.
And it's funny because I'll see some things happening in the show sometimes, especially with Mike, especially with Mike's character. What I'll be like, oh, there's some real family matters happening here.
Our characters are bonding.
Yeah, right. And I'll be like, oh, so I actually after this episode had this feeling of Horace realizing Horace half the time is just too. Is too involved with himself to really even consider bothering with being considerate, right? With calling people servants and whatnot. But after this episode, I realized I think Horace is starting to grow up and come around to the idea that oh, these are people that I go everywhere with, and are starting to matter to me.
Value for reasons,
and value,
beyond just what they can do for me,
right?
And the area of coming home kind of does help put that mirror up, because it's basically presenting both families at the same time. This is my current family that I've built, and this is my older family. Which is the
oh my god, it's
what
taking
says a
your
lot
girlfriend to the family holidays, and we were that.
I've never.
You guys were the Horace's girlfriend.
I've never really thought about the idea of how taking your adventuring party to your family's house, it could be important, I wasn't embarrassed. It's funny because Horace wasn't embarrassed by you guys, though.
He should have been a little bit.
I know he should have.
Sweeney,
Sweeney was the worst.
I think he
thumbing my nose at everyone.
I think he was much more concerned with convincing everybody how important he was than to be embarrassed by his adventuring party.
Well, there was so much of him in his room getting ready and trying to be as glistening as possible. It was very much kind of a look at me in the ball gown and everything kind of scenario. And I think it came across for sure.
This is actually funny because one of my questions that I was going to get to later was, where do you think Horace's arc is at this moment, and where is he going?
Yeah,
and I think we've kind of covered that. In that he's developing.
He's starting to learn about humanity.
I think the worst case scenario is obviously death, right? Death in hell, soul eaten by
a lot of arcs to be had in hell. A lot of things you can learn down there.
D&D can end in really bad ways, where your soul gets collapsed into a lich phylactery and stored away. But best case scenario, I think that Horace does actually put together some sort of, if not a kingdom, but at least a community where he has learned through his adventures to be a leader, to be somebody who uses his strength to better people, and also becomes, I think, probably complete by the people he's been adventuring with.
Oh, yeah.
And that also weirdly sounds like the origin of a Walking Dead villain.
Yeah. I mean, that, honestly, you say that. And it's funny because, the governor in the comic books is a shitty character. He's just evil.
Just patently evil.
Yeah, he's just patently
evil. He's just a guy who looks at blank screens of dead floating faces just for fun.
Right.
And it's just
I haven't read that issue.
And also he's way more rapey in the comic books.
Yes,
he just goes on rape.
Just terrible.
Yeah.
He's a horrible character. In the show, they added the nuance of he was still a horrible human being, but you could see that he used to be a dude, and then he just broke. He is a broken person.
And honestly, I forget which season it was. Might have been season 5 of Walking Dead, where the governor is detached from his community, and you see him trying to redevelop a community again. And you guys watch Walking Dead?
I do not, but I can follow through context.
And they really quickly killed him off. It was a 3-episode arc where you started to see him coming back, and they just killed him.
Oh.
But I thought it was probably one of the most ballsy, fascinating things to spend so long making this like guy a villain, to make this guy like a character that everybody's like, yeah, fuck that guy, kill that guy, and to come around to this idea of like, oh my gosh, like this guy's helping people, this guy wants to be, because it's funny because like what I think a lot of people don't think about is that Mad Max has done a lot of bad things.
Oh, yeah.
That Mad Max is actually like not a good guy.
Yeah, and that's the thing in all the movies. I guess not the first one as much, but in Road Warrior and Thunderdome, it always starts with like, hey, I'm selfish. I'm a selfish asshole.
Right.
Like, give me gasoline and I'll help you do this thing. And then at the end, he's always like, but maybe I'll be your messiah, you little children. And like, God, I love Beyond Thunderdome.
Right.
It's so dumb and glorious.
I know. I mean, a lot of people don't like Beyond Thunderdome, but honestly,
it's so dumb and amazing.
I think it completes the arc for Mad Max.
It kind of does.
Yeah, and like some of the best heroes are like Riddick's actually this way too, and this is why I actually like Riddick.
I really like Riddick too.
It's because Riddick really is just listening to the animal inside. Like in Pitch Black, that's one of my favorite things that I loved about that character was that he was just like, he is the devil inside that character where he goes like, don't go back for your friends. Like there's no reason to, they're dead. Like, don't, like, deny that part of humanity.
That's a great scene, because you see her, like, just morally, like, I have to do this. Like, I can't not do this.
And doesn't it end up killing her?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The people live, but she does not.
Yeah.
Spoilers for a movie that is, like, 15 years old.
Pretty old.
Yeah.
Still a great movie, though.
Yeah.
So, I mean, still go see it.
Yeah, it's really, it's just solid.
Yeah, it's a really good movie. And those characters have always appealed to me. And even though I think Horace has this, like, deep selfishness and comedic.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I make it comedic because it's supposed to be entertaining. But, but
not
are
nearly.
You in for some psychologically heavy D&D? Friday Night Quest.
We did cut the scene where you just sit and look at a bank of severed heads in a glass. No.
We felt that was a bit too heavy for the podcast.
It's a different kind of selfishness. Yeah. Because it's just it's more of an entitlement.
Yeah.
You are the villain from any, like, Karate Kid style, like, just the natural, like, I'm reading the King Killer Chronicles in the Name of the Wind and things, and there's a character who's like, oh yeah, you're him. Like, you are just an asshole. Rich douchebag.
Jamie Lannister is kind of that.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You were talking about characters that they take that are terrible, and then, like, they slowly, like, but I now kind of like Jamie Lannister is kind of like a hero in that show right now.
Yeah.
While seasons ago it was like, this guy is the worst. He tries to kill kids. He's incestuous.
He was the black hat in a Western.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you knew he was going to throw down with Stark, which then did happen, and then like everything got killed. But like, he was like the black hat, like, oh yeah, he's the gunslinger. He's like the most famous fighter. And then eventually they're like, but what if we take everything from him?
It was great, the turn they made of that character, to a point where I was just so confused.
But what was great
morally
was that he was still unapologetic for so long, and that's what I think he has in common with Horace, is that Horace is a very unapologetic character.
I mean, sometimes even the way that I play Horace, I feel like, wow, in any other story I'd be the bad guy here.
Yes.
Like, I would be the guy that you guys would be fighting.
It's almost admirable, though, because at a certain point your confidence in how terrible things that you do and say almost is, I wouldn't say heroic, but you have to admire the just unrelenting confidence that Horace's character,
that's just good leadership.
Is like,
it's actually,
I am going to punch this guy, and I'm going to ask for rosé, and it is the right thing to do.
Yeah,
and it's
always.
like, I guess he's so confident about it. I guess it's the right thing.
I think self-doubt is probably the worst case scenario for Horace. Worst case scenario is him having to analyze what he did.
Yeah, that would probably be the worst, for sure.
I think that's actually true for all of our characters, because we're all about like a stone's throw from just like eating babies. Like, we're all like just like walking the fine razor's edge of like, oh, that was a horrible thing we did. Like,
I mean, I think Sweeney for sure. Definitely.
Sweeney,
I feel like Sweeney has a lot of reflection.
Yes.
And he's just kind of made a choice to be like, you know what?
This is just where I am.
This is where I'm at.
Yeah, Sweeney is, I think, the most self-actualized, like the most like introspective, which is surprising because he's very much a creature of impulse. But we all are. And he's the one who is like, we'll obviously be seeing this in later seasons, but he is the one who has crossed the line and has walked back and said, please don't go that way. Like, that, you don't want to go in there.
Well, that was a lot of what came up in season 5 with Izzy.
The scene with Izzy.
I would say Izzy's thing is she's lucky that every random thing that you guys have fought at the end has turned out to be a snake man or something. Instead of, like, I think the breaking point for her would probably be killing somebody innocent. because it's always ended up being like it's always been like a snake monster or something like that.
But I think what Izzy gets across is that Izzy really is just an animal. Like, and in the end, like, animals are faultless because they don't have the kind of morals that we have.
That's true.
And I think she turns into a bear and likes to slash at things because bears likes to do that.
Yeah, or they do that because they're in a corner and it's like, that's what I'm doing.
And it's much more acceptable for a bear to do that, so we don't question a bear doing that.
We don't question, and I think that there's this kind of like, even the way
that's interesting to think
Kelly
about
plays
that.
Izzy is that I think Kelly plays Izzy in a way that's really like stomach first, you know, like not really engaging in a civilization way.
Right.
She's engaging in
like ooh, that might be fun to do for like the purity of the fun of it.
Right.
Not for like the social or strategic value of it, of just like, ooh, I want to eat that thing.
And I think it's interesting because I actually think Horace's relationship with Izzy is like having a dog. Like, I think Horace actually,
or like having a mount, quite literally,
or having a mount,
right?
Right. Like, I think Horace sees it. Like, when your dog poops or eats something bad or like bites somebody, it's not like when somebody from Civilization does it.
Yeah.
You know, you go like, excuse me, like, let's talk about this.
Like, you can't do this.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
This is inexcusable.
But when your dog bites somebody, you go like, oh, I'm so sorry for my dog.
And they're just like, it's fine.
Yeah. They're like, God, it hurt, but okay.
I get it.
And like, I think really Horace, like, we don't really know the origin of how these three met, but a part of me feels like Horace has always been seeing Izzy as kind of like, well, this is like my guard dog, you know, like this is somebody that clearly can turn into a bear, you know, and
I see some value there.
Yeah, I see some value, and like, in if I keep this chain, whatever that chain is, tight on this pet of mine, everything's fine, you know, like, it doesn't turn against me, like, as long as I give it the food that it wants, like, it doesn't turn against me. And
the adventure and what she seeks,
right.
That's interesting.
I mean, if me and Izzy's purposes were ever crossed, I think probably Horace would be probably freaked out, you know, like, I think
Old Yeller style.
Oh yeah. If I was like, I've got to go take Izzy behind the castle.
Do me now. What's Sweeney's thing?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's like, I think Sweeney started out as a merc, like, for Horace. I think Horace saw it as like, this is my hired, like, I need a spell slinger, right?
Yeah.
Like, and a lot of adventurers need spell slingers.
Yeah, I fill a party role in a very literal way.
And I was in promise of money, you know, and it was really easy to hire you.
And you're following around a guy who is just cloaked in finities, like things that, like, you could probably pawn off if he didn't notice it was gone.
And I think Horace sees in Sweeney this sense of like, magic is regal, like, magic is special, magic is something
you've seen in the bestest of castles and places. Their advisors also, or people they have around are magic.
And also dragons are innately magical. So there's like a deep, like, ingrained respect in Horace for magic. Like, there's never a moment of like, yo, Sweeney, don't do something that I'm suspicious of or superstitious of. Like, he's always like, please have your magic time. like please, like, read those evil scrolls, like, all you want, because like like, magic to me is good. Like, there's almost not bad magic. Like, Horace sees it all as just like good.
It is natural.
Yeah,
it is like
good,
part of nature.
Good.
Like, rain can be bad, rain can be good.
It's almost like I think Horace sees, like, Horace obviously mythologizes and reveres power and power
and
magic,
fetishizes power
and magic is like ultimate power.
Oh yeah.
And so having Sweeney close for him is like, do you see my
power that I have?
Yeah, that like I have with me and is on my side. And because, I mean, he's never going to be magical. I mean, if you were to sit him down with a magic book, he'd be like, I'm tired already. You know, like,
make Gormo read it.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Gormo gains 4 levels in Wizard.
Gormo multi-classes.
Yeah. Gormo, read these books. And
I can do wish now.
Gormo, I wish for you to be stronger. So like, I think Sweeney has slowly developed, and my intention going forward is seeing Izzy and Sweeney as more important than they were before.
Right.
Like, for instance, he sees Sweeney now as like the imperial, like, advisor / wise man.
It's kind of like
servant.
It's kind of like taking the scales from your eyes and like recognizing them in a new light.
Mm-hmm. But also in the Horace light, which is like highfalutin and kingdom talk.
Yeah.
Always kingdom talk.
Always kingdom talking.
He is a man with a mission.
Always Kemp Landing. I mean, you can't fault him for that. That again, going back to, he will do it forever. He will He will not stop. He's like Batman, but for building a kingdom instead of fighting for Gotham justice.
Right.
Well, he's definitely the most forward-driven of all of our characters. Izzy's much more live in the moment, and Sweeney's always looking over his shoulder. Like, that's just... We've talked about that on the podcast before.
Yeah.
That's very much who they are and how they handle themselves in life.
Well, and I think the tragedy of Horace, and this is the scary thing for, I think, anybody's wishes, which is like that proverb, careful what you wish for, is that I think if somebody were to give Horace a kingdom now, it would fail miserably.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes.
It would fail
yes,
miserably.
yes.
And I think...
As
like,
evidenced by the fact that he throws gold at villagers.
Oh, and then tells his servant to go then steal said gold
Yes.
Yeah, I know. That's like the worst governorship. But like my intention as I see Horace growing and as I see it going forward is that best case scenario, would see Horace at the end of, let's say, level 20. At
Sure.
level 20, being the kind of person that's gone through the fire, the crucible, if you will, and seen like, oh, that's what it is to be a leader. Oh,
Yeah.
that's what it is to be a king. So you could give level 20 Horace a kingdom, and he would have the weight of being a level 20 behind him to go, I understand what this means to lead like a kingdom.
Oh, yeah.
Versus like now, which
Level
is
7. Which even now, like you're
Not
learning.
enough kingdom perks at level
Right.
7. You unlock a lot of cool kingdom shit at like about
level
15.
Level 15, you start being able to tax people.
Yeah. It's a really cool... It's a bonus action.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the structure of season 6. And Jay, you sent an email to Jeremy.
I did.
Before you wrote the adventure, I should say. And the email was basically breaking down what we knew about the Kemps so far and asking what kind of dragon was
Gendikraz.
what were the weird traditions of Bahamutmas, who were the enemies of the Kemp, and what additional flavor. And Jeremy sent back like a page-long
It
list.
was amazing what you sent back.
It was a whole thing on like the dynamics between all of the children and like based on like we didn't name all the children because we don't want to write ourselves into a corner.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not George R.R. Martin. It does not help to have a family tree pre-written. But like to have like, and here's how the dragon children like look at the other children, and like, oh, by the way, this is the one I want to take issue with, sir. You invited a black dragon to dinner with us.
That was my favorite part.
Yeah.
And then you also established like the opposing mafia family of changeling or of doppelgangers.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I thought like the idea of Bahamutmas being that like all dragons respect it. Like all dragons respect Bahamutmas enough
Like
that,
even the chromatic dragons are like, yeah, Bahamut's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, if not love or even respect, at least fear enough to be like, you don't fuck around.
You don't fuck around with Bahamutmas. Yeah.
Like so. I mean, and also that Gendikraz was so. Or are we not supposed to say the F word?
I don't know. We say the
Oh,
F
we
word.
say it all the time.
Yeah, we say it all the time. What am I talking about?
Okay.
I don't know what we all looked at each other. I thought you made like a thing, and I was like, oh wait.
No, I was
wait.
clearing
Do we
my
not
throat.
say the F word on here?
Oh yeah,
sorry.
we do.
From now on, we'll say forgive.
Okay, forgive. That's right. Yeah. That's the proper
And I also
proper
thought
dragon
that
term.
Gendikraz is such a power. Like I imagined her to be old, like to be older than a black dragon.
Oh, yeah.
that she would invite.
And she is older than Marcus in
Right.
this. I mean, much older than Marcus, obviously.
And so I figured, like, for a silver dragon, and silver dragons, like, I think there could be a relationship where it's like, I think we've all seen that character that keeps a dangerous person around because they're so much more powerful than that person. It's kind of like, I'm not going to just cold-blooded kill that thing, but it's not powerful enough to affect me.
Yeah. And it also it's a good story for the kids.
Right.
It's like, hey, on Bahamutmas, we even accept the most evil of dragons, which are black dragons.
Right.
And what a power play.
Yeah.
Because like black dragons don't hang out with any other kinds of dragons.
Black dragons are in fact super terrified of almost every other dragon, chromatic dragons, let alone metallic dragons.
Yeah.
So yes, that is quite a power play to be like, hey, come hang out on my castle.
Yeah, right.
And we should also say, like, Jeremy's a DM.
Yeah.
You know from story, so you knew exactly what Jay was asking. And you gave so much fodder.
Yeah.
Like, there was a section...
It was quite literally like asking, like, Father, could I have a present for Christmas? And it's like, what about all of these presents? It's like, what?
And
like,
the
many things.
The last line was, I think that should clinch it. Oh, yeah. The Darnells want the Kemp estates because there is a massive cavern complex beneath their land that houses all sort of ruins and artifacts. The Kemps keep the cavern sealed and have for centuries been the guardians of the pathways down, the most prominent of which is an ancient massive locked door that the Kemp Manor was based around. That door is right in the main dining room, and all important family events are held in front of it, as that door is a symbol of their strength. And, like, you knew like, oh yeah, we might just go into a dungeon. Here's a dungeon.
Sure.
Here's a dungeon if you want to explore
yeah.
it. Do you want an evil enemy? How about this? What about a black dragon funny character? And I was like, you basically...
Or how about some doppelgangers?
Yeah, you basically put all these pieces in here, and I was like, well, I'm just going to rearrange these, and then there we go. There's your adventure.
Yeah. You know what's funny is I actually literally wrote about the Darnells being doppelgangers, and I forgot as we were playing.
I could tell.
I was like, wait a second, why is this person acting this way? And
If only I knew a bunch of doppelgangers. Oh, wait a second.
totally.
I dated one.
Yeah. Because I think you were dropping me hints.
Yes.
And I was kind of like, I don't remember exactly what you said, but I remember going like, why is he saying that? And
Was
I
it
like,
Ixalan? Because
Ixalan, right?
Because
I
when he
was
said the name Ixalan, you were like, do I know that name?
Yeah, exactly. I was like,
That's when I was like, oh no.
But you know what's funny about Horace is it fits because Horace might actually
forget
his ex-girlfriend.
That's true. That is very much in line with that
Her
character.
name.
Yeah, her name for sure. Yeah.
Well, it's also like, how serious was the relationship? We don't know.
Well, certainly not sexual.
Yep,
No.
we know that for
we
sure.
Know, we know canonically that Horace is still a virgin.
Yeah. So.
And yeah, I mean, everything you kind of set up there was basically all of the other things I wanted to dig into. And there was like some stuff in there about like, I loved the little bits about the holiday festivities of like, oh, like you tell riddles or like, I mean, even not, I don't even think all of it made it into the story, but there was like so much.
It's mentioned, but we gloss over a lot of it.
Right.
Yeah.
There was, I love some people in the family pick dragons and take upon the personality of the dragon. I was like, that's such a fun thing, guys.
Yeah, all of that
Start
was-
celebrating Bahamutness.
That was all Jeremy.
in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. It was a joy to read that email. I was like, this is everything I wanted it to
that's
be.
so sweet. You know, it's funny because you said, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said, I'm a DM and I know what it's like to want to give the players as much possible playground. And that's how I DM is. I want there to be. It's funny because the world of D&D is hilarious to me because
it's terrifying.
Because everything is dangerous, including
Always.
the local shop. Like, the basement of the local shop is a dungeon.
Yeah.
and
sure.
like your local granny sweeping her
Probably
her
a witch.
porch is probably a witch or a ghost. And
Yeah, something.
the squirrels in the trees are fucking cursed or murdered. So like,
Yeah.
so they're-
Like, I have to imagine, like, when fall comes, it still has to concern people, like, wait, the leaves, they're crinkling, they're turning, wait, no, is it fall?
Yeah.
Okay, it's fall.
It
Okay,
might
thank
just be
God.
fall.
It might just be fall, or it might be a deadly curse that kills us by the end of the day. We'll have to find
I
out.
know that's what's so wonderful about D&D. It's like
So people live for the moment in the world of D&D.
and it almost makes me understand why towns tolerate adventurers, because adventurers truly are psychopaths.
They're basically the
Like-
personification of like what would be cocaine in D&D.
Yeah.
They are just energy and excitement, and they disappear probably quickly because something ate them.
And also they're like id, because they want to steal, they want to win, they want to eat, they want to fuck, they want to
Drink.
kill. Yeah, they want to drink, they want treasure.
Yeah.
And it's like, and they have no problem with if they upset the dragon, it starts burning the town. They're like, well, fuck, we're at level 1. Let's get out of here.
Let's get out. We can't kill that dragon.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
Their moral decisions are around
guys,
strength.
we will be back in like 2 years.
I promise.
We just need to go grind for a while.
Exactly.
Gotta kill some owlbears in the woods, but we'll be back.
We're gonna have an epic adventure, and we're gonna come back to avenge all of you.
And that's
Trust us,
probably,
we will name someone after you.
and that's I'll name a sword after you, kid.
Yeah.
I promise.
Thank you.
That's the thing. That's the thing. Like, with like, that's why I see D&D adventures, and I'm always like, maybe we should do one where like there's real consequences, and it's like, I guess that wouldn't happen because who would lock those people up? You would be locking up so many of these people. Like, they'll take care of themselves.
Yeah.
They'll either become super powerful wizards or they'll get eaten by a dragon or something.
Well, I mean, like that's what I'm saying is that there's this kind of innate weird balance to D&D, which is that the world is so terrifying that I think villages would tolerate people that are so willing to throw themselves
At the danger.
At the danger.
That's the thing. They're like,
Yeah.
look, we can't arrest them or kill them because, like, that big fire dragon is going to come back any one of these days, and we need these psychopaths to kill it.
And let's all be honest. Good luck arresting a girl who can turn into a giant spider.
yeah,
slash bear.
who wants
Yeah.
to do like what cell do we put her in? Like, she can turn into a tiny frog and then a massive bear.
Yeah, I mean, like if the town guard really wanted to get Izzy, They're probably level 2.
Here's the other
they're
problem.
Gonna die. They're gonna die easily.
Good luck holding her.
Yeah, exactly.
I recently, in an adventure I'm running, the players got arrested 3 times because they were terrible at sneaking, and I also didn't make it very clear what they were trying to do. It was a sandbox adventure, and they just kept breaking out in like the same ways because it's like, there's a druid and like a bard, and like of course you're gonna break out. Like,
all we got is stones and bars. Like that's it.
Sorry, it's been a day. They haven't had time to build a supermax for you.
It's a little like Dukes of Hazzard. Like,
It's like the guard sitting in a room like, do you have any magic books? I don't know. What does that say? Can we put like a spell or a ward up? I don't know, man. I just farm on the weekends.
And also, none of us want to just arrest our players and leave them languishing in prison for like 9 levels. Because like,
unless you can put them near, Quaggoths and things like that in a dungeon in a Cal Sovereignty.
But it's just like for a one-off. Like it's fine to put them in a prison. You don't intend to like lock them away.
Oh no.
Because
it'd be very funny to be like, sorry guys, you got captured, and then next adventure you're like, it's been 7 years.
I know.
You're being bailed out now.
You do Orange the New Black in D&D characters.
I kind of want to see the Prison Break DM like D&D story. I have no idea how it works. Because
it would probably, I mean, honestly, if you set it up as like a magical prison and just basically made it the reverse of a dungeon, you're just trying to get out of the maze dungeon instead of get into it.
Well, also, like, there's a lot of fun role-playing in that, where it's like smuggling in like spell books. Like,
charming the guard or timing out when the guard is moving.
Literally sharpening bone to make like a weapon for the fighter.
Yeah.
I mean,
see, that would be easy because with healing spells, you could just rip out your own bones and then heal your leg and then sharpen your own bones.
Yeah.
That's grotesque.
Guys, I'm real good at breaking out of magical dungeons.
This is what happens when you put 3 DMs in a room.
Now, here's the funny thing. We all say this, but as a real human being, if I was a cleric or whatever, and I was like, listen, Jay, I'm just going to rip your leg off. It's going to be fine because I have healing spells. And I'm going to...
You've seen me use it before.
We need bone weapons.
Well, here's the thing, and I think we should address, like, not every D&D group's the same, but this does tend to happen because you have people playing in a sort of wish fulfillment kind of reality. It's like, oh, I can do whatever. I have a whole sheet of things I'm awesome at. I should use them. I'm great at fighting. Like, in the words of Javi, when he was on the show, when all you have is a warhammer, every problem looks like an infant. Like,
oh god,
every problem looks like a nail. Like, it's like everything can be solved with this weapon that I have.
Good quote.
Yeah, Javi's great. And like, everything looks like it can be solved by the tools in our disposal, and this game is centered around fighting. So as a result, it's like, oh, we can solve all our problems with murder magic.
That's always option B, or if not option A, in almost every scenario.
And you know, it's funny because I think about that a lot in like game design. Like game design, so often all you're given is a gun. Like, and that's how you interact with the world.
What's on my equipment? It's like, well, you have a gun. It's like, okay, cool. It's like, but you also have like a pencil and like a map and like a compass.
Well, so here's the funny thing is like one of my favorite games of all time is Resident Evil 4. Like, I love that game.
I love that game too.
I think it's one of the greatest games ever made. But the funny thing is, they actually get really creative with the fact that all you can interact with the world is with a gun.
Is with a gun, yeah.
But there's so much that you can actually interact with the world. You can like blow chains off of bridges to make bridges
and
fall.
Drop them. Yeah, you're building bridges with guns.
Yeah. Now that's the Reagan dream that I bought into.
Resident Evil 4.
Portal does something similar where they give you a gun that actually solves problems.
Yeah,
a genius concept of just like, it just teleports you across a room, and it's just like, this is the game. It's like, no, this is going to be the best game.
Yeah, 2 of the best games.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah, and I got to this place where it's like, that's what I actually like about D&D, is that D&D actually allows itself to be in a place where even if none of the characters have even if it's literally you're naked in a box, there's still a way to solve the problem. There's still
or your DM is a douchebag.
Or your DM is a douchebag.
Yeah.
I mean, and Jay's actually played in one of my games, and probably Jay can probably be on the edge of saying Jeremy's a douchebag.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
I put you guys in some really bad situations.
Yes.
And I don't. I actually really like to do that.
I will say this as well. I personally love that. Like, that was actually, I will say this, you were the first DM experience I ever had. The first time I ever played, and it was Pathfinder, wasn't D&D. The first time I ever played was with you, and I really loved that we were like, you would occasionally be like, hey, you guys are like a level 1 and here's like a manticore. And I was just like, oh no. I still remember that because it was kind of presenting with a no-win scenario. Like, hey guys, you can't just punch this thing until it disappears from the story. Like, you gotta figure something else out.
And it's like, I don't have a big brother, but I had older guys that would that would really punish.
That would just hang around my house.
Yeah, that were.
It's called a gang.
That were in the shack. That were in the shack behind my house. And
I was a greaser. I fought against this gang all the time.
It was knife fights, and
when you're a jet all the way.
Yeah, I know you are.
But like, I had all these, like, most of my early D&D experiences were very punishing, like extremely punishing.
Yeah.
Like down to the idea of like every gold piece that you had to record the weight, because if you had too much, like, it was like, sorry, you can't swing your sword, asshole. And then you're like, God damn it, like,
you gotta go to the bank.
I'd literally have to like trade like my treasure for my life, you know what I mean? Because I'd be like, well, I have to hold my sword to live,
to not die.
Yeah, so I came to this place of like really loving that feeling. And also in game design, this is one of my favorite game design tropes, which is that you want to do everything, but you can only do, like, you want to do 5 things, but you can only do 2 things. That's my favorite game design. And I think that makes for the best tension in games, because like there's a couple games like that, like to a very lesser extent, I think, like Ticket to Ride, which I think is a really good game.
Yeah.
Like the train game. It's like you want to actually do both. You want to take tickets and lay trains. But you can't. You can only do one thing per turn. And I love the idea that like you desperately want to be able to be the badass, you know? And I love the feeling of that when you earned it. Like, when you actually do something powerful, it's because you guys banded together and did something powerful.
And figured out something really, really cool.
And like you just mentioned, that Manicore that showed up, I didn't decide on that. I literally rolled a random monster.
It was like,
and it showed up, and I was like, fuck it. Manicore's here, man. Like, I'm
gotta deal with this now.
I mean, let the dice say. And I was just like, go. And you guys lived.
Yeah, we did.
I mean, and
it was terrifying, but we did live.
Good on you. And you didn't kill it.
No, we didn't.
That's okay.
I think we appeased it with jewels or something.
Yeah.
But that to me was very interesting. And Mike knows this because Mike DMs the game that I play with him right now.
Yeah.
Mike knows that I personally, as a character, I like to create goofy scenarios.
Yeah, you're an instigator.
I'm an instigator,
but if the situation is not so bad that it can't be worse, like, you might just like poke it and like make things a little more interesting.
But we could probably say Sweeney's the same way.
Absolutely,
oh,
Sweeney's
for sure.
the same way.
Yeah.
How can I make it, like, when, for example, in season 5, when you just started like, you know what, I'm going to be Horace. And just obviously create a problem that is going to implode upon itself later, but here we go.
Yeah, Sweeney doesn't look forward. Sweeney looks behind himself and looks at the mistakes he's made. The argument can be made he doesn't learn from them, but also like he is in a position where he doesn't have a ton to lose. Like, realistically, like, he has a support structure. He has Izzy and Horace as like a safety net.
Would you say he's like a cancer survivor? Like, he comes out the other side and is like, you know what? Why did I care so much? Like,
I'm going to be dirty all the time.
Maybe I can just like live my life and really have fun. Like, why do I care?
He's definitely been through things that like changed his perspective on everything in his life. And it's not hard to like draw the line to be like, well, I don't care what this person thinks, but Horace is going to care, because at some point he's going to figure out what I did.
Yeah.
And that's going to be fun, because that's what he does. Like, and that's what I do is like, as a player who is also a DM, I'm like, oh, this is going to make for interesting, and I edit the show, and I know, like, okay, this is going to be an interesting role-playing moment that I will like to hear 4 or 5 times, so like, because I have to like add sound effects and things, so it's like, well, I might as well enjoy it while I'm like, I might as well make it more fun.
Yeah. That's
and like,
funny.
he is definitely an instigator who like wants to say the Bahamut Day prayer.
Yeah,
because,
and
like,
wear red around everybody.
Yeah.
The worst chromatic color you could probably wear to dinner.
Well, you know, God, I think honestly, I'm so sorry, I'm quoting John Grisham, but
Go ahead.
That's fine. He seems to do all right for himself.
Yeah, he does all right for himself, and he
We're
said
sorry,
like the number one thing he does in all his books is make sure there's conflict on every page, and like he thinks that's good storytelling, and I think that's good storytelling.
I agree.
And like Sweeney, honestly, every page for Sweeney is conflict.
Well,
basically.
It's the game Fiasco, if you've ever played that.
Yeah,
where it's every scene, you have a scene with someone, you're like, all right, one of us wants something. How are we going to get it? Like, what do I want, and what are the obstacles in my path? Because it's never just like, oh, I want you to go and you know, rat on your brother for me. Okay. here's all the information. Like, that doesn't do anyone any good. That is the most boring movie ever. So instead,
I need to get through this door. Oh, it's unlocked, and we're inside. And it's just like describing what is happening instead of creating barriers.
One of the greatest challenges of playing Horace is ignoring how dangerous Sweeney feels. Truly, like as a person, I'm like, why would I allow this? Like, why would I allow this dangerous person so close to me? And but like, I know Horace well enough to be like, well, Horace is kind of blind to that.
And he also sees himself into a position of where I feel like he can't truly be like, I'm not in danger. I'm fine. I brought him around. That was a great decision of mine.
And so, like, I think also Horace is really good at self-delusion, right?
I think what he does is he downplays Sweeney and he overplays himself.
Yeah.
And there's like
that's one of his feats, right? Yeah. Self-delusion?
Yeah, that's pick that feat.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It requires +1 agility. I don't know why.
I think we all know why, guys. Roll a dexterity check for self-delusion.
Yeah, what is that? Because you have to like use your...
You don't wave your hand.
You have to wave your hand in front of your face.
Listeners can't see this, but Jeremy waved his hand in front of his face.
It's very tricky to make your way through a dungeon with your head up your own ass. That's really what it is.
That's true. That's what it is.
Yeah.
So
and
you're able to still act
your
normally.
Foot in your mouth at the same time.
It's tricky. It's real tricky.
Yeah, so I mean, I find myself sometimes in role-playing scenarios with Sweeney where, like, as a human being, I'm like, oh, Jesus, this is, like, such a liability.
But then out of your mouth is like, great idea.
Yeah, but Horace is, like, excellent. I'm glad he's on my team. Like, excellent. I have somebody trying to, like, anger the lizard people.
Yeah.
Like...
Good thinking. These dirty lizard people don't deserve our attention.
Sweeney was uncharacteristically very well-mannered during the lizard people encounter.
Yeah, you were, actually.
You're much worse around humans than you are
I think that's honestly what it is. Is like
creatures.
He's in his comfort zone with humans.
Yeah.
With lizard people, he's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know
what's gonna happen here.
Civilization. And like then Horace put his foot in his mouth. I think that was one too where like we had Horace stepping into the role of the fool.
Oh yeah.
In a big way. And weirdly, Jonathan acting as your counterpoint, balancing you out. And I was just sort of like the observer at that point. Like, cause I was stepping in and like, all right, well, someone should talk about strategy. And like it's funny how like we trade off in that sort of way. Where
it's a lot like Great Gatsby, where nope, that wasn't
it's not a thing.
not like Great Gatsby.
I'll allow it.
But it's like the same thing happened in season 4 because we had Javi's character was so sort of like the instigator. Yeah. Very much so. He was an instigator character, and I was like, well, Sweeney's pulling back a little bit because someone's got to look at like the role that needs to be filled, and the role that needs to be filled is, but what if instead measured? Because the problem was we were all instigators, because we've talked about this in the aftermath, which is like, and we've talked about this off mic, we all knew we were going to die, and we all were like panicking, and we're like, oh shoot, like slam the bartender's head into the ground, tie up the lizard woman, and it's like, well crap,
we're gonna die,
we're going to die, and it's hanging over our head like a guillotine. So like Sweeney weirdly is the one who had the perspective of like, yeah, we're gonna die, so like let's like take a minute and like maybe calm down.
Yeah.
Just a second.
Uncharacteristic of Sweeney. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because like even what you were saying with like Jonathan was the counterpoint. Like I think that Horace always needs a Darnsin. Like Horace always needs like the like smart,
level-headed,
capable person.
Which Serenity even in season 5 was very much that opposite counterpoint too, which was very interesting, which also made for some fun wordplay and even a little bit, even like a hint of romance there as well with that scene, especially when you guys were at the bar and then later on, because she was able to be that level-headed, like kind of sized you up, like oh, I see what's going on here, but I am this character and you are this character.
And then as soon as we took Zareni and Izzy away, just Horace and Sweeney just fumbling in the dark, burning down a tavern.
Keep throwing fire at that wall.
That was probably the one where you were like, oh, maybe you shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
And like,
it's like,
but I also was like, I don't know what else to do.
There's something in the wall and we have to kill it.
You know something's really wrong when Horace starts doubting his own reality.
That means some stuff has really gone bad. You mean like demon creatures invading a swamp as you burn the place you're in? Yeah, that's a pretty bad scenario.
I mean, it's funny. Like one of the things that I find to be one of the strangest characteristics of Horace is that like he's so concerned about his looks. He's so like make sure that he's well put together. But by the end of every adventure, he is covered in blood. Yeah, and like I think about that a lot. I think about like how is there a kind of like allowance Horace makes for the idea that like, well, this is a part of being strong or being like respected, is that like when you emerge from battle with like
there has to,
blood matted hair.
It might be something to do with, and I mean, maybe this is done accidentally, but pulling back to season 6 with, Marcus, and very much Marcus, the character, and I think it's mentioned in one of the episodes, he mentions he typically wears bronze, like the bronze keepers, which is his guard, which are the potentially the military force of the Kemps, or the bronze keepers.
Yeah.
So in a sense, when Horace was growing up, Marcus was very much obviously a huge influence in his life as his father, and who he looked up to, and since his character, his personality was very much based on the bronze, the military, that might have rubbed off on Horace as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, one of the things about Horace is that he clearly can like kill.
Yeah,
like,
clearly. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's so funny because oftentimes I forget, like, Horace's character is this huge jacked guy, like Captain America level, like ripped.
Captain America unafraid to take a life.
Oh yeah,
at all.
Yeah,
like
just a terrifying Captain
America.
Just
to slay a man and not think twice about it, like,
and also brutal. Like, also like sometimes. It's so extremely. Didn't he kill his ex-girlfriend?
Yes, you did.
But the thing
and I think you realized it right beforehand, and you're like, "No, I'm still gonna kill her."
Yeah, I think like Darnsin asked if you had any last words for her, and you were like, "No."
That was that.
But and then you're the one who delivered the final blow.
I did.
But the thing is that like you don't take a pleasure in it.
No, I don't.
Which is what keeps that character on the side of. Not Mad Max, not a dystopian like psychopath.
I mean that's the funny thing about Horace is that there really isn't a bloodlust or like a battle frenzy about him.
No,
like there's nothing about battle for him that seems pleasurable. Like for him, it's always just about prestige and power. And if you could get it done without battle, he would do it.
Yeah, Izzy, of any of us, is the one who has a sort of bloodlust. If not craving action, certainly no problem. Instigating it or dealing with it when it comes.
Right.
And no problem just enjoying the felling of a foe.
And happily tearing apart.
Yeah, I mean, she quite literally, loser dance is quite literally the act of just desecrating a murdered foe.
Shouts, "You suck," and dances in their blood. Like,
and I've tried to adopt it because I try to encourage her.
Right, which is good.
Can.
Which is good to encourage that in Izzy. Dancing in the carcasses of people that you killed.
I mean, it's like you do reward your guard dog when it bites a thief. When
it guards.
Yeah, exactly. So
I think those are all my questions.
I think those were good questions. We got pretty deep with those characters.
We did. I don't know if we have anything else to say about season 6.
No, but I do have one quick surprise here. Now, at the end of season 6, you birthed a magical sentient sword. And I don't know if you know this, but you, typically, the DM myself, I would roll up the 3 stats of said sword of wisdom, charisma, intelligence. You're actually going to roll those up for us live right now, and we're going to apply that to your new sword, which you have named yet, which we haven't spoken on air, but Horace or Jeremy, or both, what is the name of your new sword?
Doris.
It's Doris and Horace.
Doris and Horace.
Is it spelled Doris?
You mean Dorace?
It's spelled like Horace.
Yeah, it's spelled like Horace.
Of course it is.
Well, I'm sorry. I forgot myself. I'm sorry, everybody, for wasting your time.
And okay. And by the way, do I pick where the stats go?
So typically, I would roll and then pick the stats. Okay. I kind of like the idea of
like old school D&D.
I like the idea of you're going to name what you're going to roll for, and then you're going to say what you roll, because this is, again, the concept is you are birthing it in the moment. This is all of just how Horace feels. So it is all just, it is pure energy.
It lands where it lands.
Yeah. So take your 4 die.
Okay.
We're going to drop out the lowest.
Okay.
So which would you like to roll for first?
Let's go intelligence.
Okay, here we go.
Intelligence first. That is...
drop the lowest die.
Yeah, that's 12.
Oh, that's not bad. Not a bad...
No, 11.
Oh, okay.
11.
That's
Okay.
still
about
not bad.
average.
That's about average.
11 for intelligence.
Intelligence.
So charisma.
Oh, let's see. Very personable.
All right. Oh my gosh.
Of course it is.
15.
Oh, wow.
Of course it is.
15.
15 charisma.
Of course it's just boxcars.
Yeah. Okay. And then...
and now we've got wisdom.
Okay.
How wise.
Much depends.
Oh, that's also a 16.
Wow. Jeez, a 16, and so we got a 15 for charisma, a 16 for wisdom,
and 11
and an
for
11 for intelligence.
Yeah.
This is I mean,
and I've already decided that my sword will do most of the talking for me now.
Well, then this makes sense.
Officially. I mean, like, when it comes to, like, negotiating prices, talk to the sword.
Talk to it. Just stick it in the ground.
I stick the sword in the ground.
Talk to the sword.
This is my lawyer.
And in the time between our last adventure and this, it has gone through. It has taken the bar. It has passed. It's a practicing
I
lawyer
wanted to take
sword.
a little weight off Gormo because I know Gormo handles a lot of the.
He does a lot of
outs.
stuff.
So I figured my sword can pick up a little slack when it comes to the.
That makes sense.
Everyday admin of my life.
Sword,
Siri.
please file these. Siri, my sword.
Doris, is it raining?
Yeah, I'll stick him out the window.
Doris,
Ow,
tell me
ow,
a joke.
Ow, 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 ow. It is hot in there.
So, like, if somebody goes, that's going to be like 50 gold for this, I'll be like, well, let's see what my sword has to say about it.
That's got a whole nother level of
And you pull it out
negotiation there.
And Doris is like, well, I think that's a pretty good deal.
I think that's a pretty good deal.
Oh, I love that voice. I love
boy. Well, guys,
Okay.
this was fun.
Yeah.
And now we've got a pretty charismatic, pretty wise,
super wise,
and decently intelligent sentient sword coming back in season 7.
average intelligence.
Average intelligence.
I wonder how it's going to feel being inserted into so many people.
we'll find out. It's going to be so
sheathed in the blood of the innocent.
This feels so strange.
Innocent?
Yeah, that's true.
Hopefully
I wouldn't
not.
kill the innocent. I wouldn't kill him.
We just talked about this.
We just talked about Horace getting a better arc.
We just
He was
talked
going to
about
learn lessons.
Yeah, you know, it's
We
hard.
open on season 7. Bodies of children. Oh, gosh.
Oh, man.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode. The Velvet League is actually going on a brief hiatus in January, but we'll be back with new episodes in February 2016. However, we will be releasing the first episode of a bonus adventure next Friday, starring none other than that sad dwarf servant Gormo, as he goes on his own wild adventure. Photos and character art for the show can be found at partialarc.com, where you can listen to or download full episodes. You can also find full episodes of our other podcasts, including Because Comics, Blockbuster Smash Up, and Roll to Seize. If you'd like to email us any questions or comments, you can do that at FridayNightQuests@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Tumblr, all under the handle Partial Arc. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the battlefield.
Yeah, I'm gonna loot the body.
So, how much experience do we get?
Well, now we have a skeleton army, so that's pretty neat.